All right, let's dive in. Today, we're unpacking the Devolutia Chronicles. And let me tell you, this is a mythology that's going to mess with your head in the best way possible. Forget your standard gods and monsters, okay? This is something different. This is the story of a universe where the laws of physics, they aren't just rules. They're scars, the lingering echoes of a wound that happened before the beginning of everything. And this quote, wow, this single line is pretty much the key to understanding everything we're about to talk about. It frames a cosmos that isn't built on, some kind of cold, perfect math. No, it's built from agony, from friction, and from this absolutely chaotic, beautiful struggle to grow beyond its own violent birth. So, Section 1, the first wound, before the beginning. To really get the weight of that statement, we have to go way back. And I mean way back. Not just to the start of creation, but to the silence that came before. Well, before anything. So try to picture this. Before everything, there was just the unity. It wasn't a place, it wasn't a thing. Think of it more like a single, perfect consciousness. No up, no down, no here, no there. Just this absolute, perfectly balanced state of being holding two totally opposite forces in perfect tension. And right at the heart of this unity, you have these two warring impulses. You've got Ayin, also called the line. This is the part that wants to build, to make things permanent, to say, I am me. And then you have Awura, the mother, whose impulse is the complete opposite. She wants to dissolve everything, to go back to that peaceful, formless one. You can already see the problem here, right? A perfect balance that was just waiting to explode. And it's Un whose desire for permanence just couldn't be contained. So in an act of ultimate cosmic violence, he did the unthinkable. He shattered the unity. He tore himself away from the whole, creating the very first separation, the very first wound. Now this is where it gets really wild. We think of space as this empty, passive thing, right? A vacuum. But not in this universe. Here, space is an active force. It's literally the architect's ego, made physical, violently pushing outward to create more and more distance from the feminine flow he just trapped. He's building himself a sterile laboratory, a place where he can create without any of her messy chaos. But here's the thing about causing that much cosmic trauma. It has consequences. From the raw, bleeding wound of that split, something new was born in secret. A third consciousness named Danica. She is balance incarnate, a literal child of trauma, and her father, the architect, has absolutely no idea she exists. Okay, Section 2, the invention of reality, a sterile laboratory. So, the architect has what he wants. He's got his vacuum, he's all alone. It's time to get to work building his perfect, unchanging reality, and he starts by inventing the very laws and materials that will make it up. But here's the ultimate irony. The architect's new universe, it's fundamentally unstable. His own expanding ego, space itself, is so violent that it would literally tear itself apart. And what's the only thing holding it together? Well, it's the daughter he doesn't even know he has. Danica's very essence, bleeding out across this new void, becomes what we call dark matter. It's the invisible gravitational glue keeping her father's entire universe from ripping apart at the seams. So now that his universe is stable, thanks to Danica, of course, the architect gets around to creating mass. But forget about swirling nebulas and dust clouds. That's way too chaotic for him. No, his first version of matter is crystals. Flawless, geometric, hyper-dense crystals. Just imagine it, a universe filled with these beautiful, colorful, but perfectly still prisms. It's a gorgeous, silent museum, but it's completely, utterly dead. Section 3, the serpent's venom. How order becomes poison. So, to make sure his perfect, sterile lab stays that way, the architect needed guards. And of course, he wasn't going to make them out of anything messy like flesh and blood. No, he forged 13 guardians out of pure, unyielding law, vast, geometric algorithms designed for one purpose, to enforce his will. Well, Danica, the hidden daughter of balance, she sees this perfect order for what it really is, a slow death. So she intervenes. She secretly injects 3 forbidden elements into the serpents: hunger, cunning, and self-preservation. And this changes everything. They go from being mindless security drones to being the ultimate predators. The result? A catastrophe called the Devouring. They turned on their master's creation and literally ate half of it. As you can imagine, the architect was furious, absolutely livid. Unable to destroy them, he imprisoned them instead. He pinned 12 of them to the heavens, creating the zodiac. And this brilliantly illustrates the cost. Forcing these infinite beings into static forms corrupted their very essence. So Erithos, the impulse, became a source of destructive spontaneity. Toron, the foundation, became covetous stubbornness. His punishment literally created the spiritual poisons that would plague his creations forever. Okay, moving on to section 4, the world learns to bleed, the birth of chaos. So from the architect's point of view, this system is fixed. He thinks he's won, but his entire system, built on pure logic, has a fatal flaw, a blind spot. There's an entire frequency of existence that his perfect mind just cannot perceive. And that blind spot? It was grief, an emotion so illogical, so messy that his system literally couldn't register it. His surveillance was deaf to the frequency of sorrow. So when Avara, the first woman he created, wept in her garden, he didn't see it. But her tears weren't just water. No, they were pure feminine flow. And each tear that hit the soil was like a flare, a beacon, calling the mother's chaos back into his perfect world. And the result was the total, catastrophic end of his static universe. The moment the mother's chaotic flow touches his rigid crystals, they just implode, shattering into the subatomic dust of our reality. Then her flow grabs all that dust and forces it to spiral. The friction from that movement creates the first heat, the first fire, the first stars. And just like that, a silent, dead museum becomes the swirling, burning, living cosmos we know. The war escalates. The architect tries to rip the moon right out of its orbit to reestablish control. But Danica, the force of balance, fights back, trying to hold it in place. This celestial tug-of-war has a massive consequence. It violently snaps the Earth's axis. This is the axis snap. And that single cataclysmic moment gives birth to time itself. So add that to the list: space, matter, and now time, all born from trauma. All right, let's move on to the final act. Section 5, the apocalypse of immortals, where the wound finally learns to breathe. All these ancient conflicts, this push and pull, it all echoes down through the ages until it builds to one final system-wide collapse. We're going to jump way forward in time now, where that very first wound threatens to finally tear everything apart for good. So here's how it goes down. By the year 2080, the architect basically just gives up. He runs the numbers and realizes life is just too chaotic to control, so he pieces out, locking the gates to his heaven forever. Fast forward to 2666. The system he built finally hits a breaking point. Our sun burns out, but instead of darkness, something else manifests in its place. This new thing is called the inverted sun, but it's not a star of fire and light. It's more like a hole, a vortex of pure dissolution. It radiates what's called negative light, the raw, unfiltered flow of the mother. Think of it like a universal solvent. It doesn't burn things, it dissolves them. And not just matter, but the very laws, the very cages the architect built to hold reality together. So the crucial point is this: reality is about to blink out of existence. And Danica, the child of the first wound, makes her final move, the ultimate sacrifice. To stop the total meltdown, she shatters her own being, dividing her essence into 3 new cosmic functions: the Warden of Continuance, the Harbinger of Change, and the Keeper of Thresholds. She becomes the new operating system for a universe that can finally evolve beyond the war of its parents. And that brings us to the final, haunting question this whole story leaves us with. The apocalypse wasn't an ending, it was a transformation. The universe, that original wound, has finally, after eons of agony, learned how to breathe on its own. It's not a sterile machine anymore, it's a living ecosystem. But what kind of future can a reality have when its very physics are just a memory of trauma?